Hi guys, so this is number 3 in the quick series and we're working our way up to arms. So I've got a tin of beans and a half dome. I'm going to do it seated so that you can really watch it on the camera. You could do it kneeling, you could do it standing, and once we've kind of done it in an upright position where you can see, we'll maybe lay down on the mat and do some stuff so that you can work on opening up the chest a little bit. I kind of ummed and ahed over whether to do some chest stretches first, but I think because they don't make sense unless the arm is in the right position, it's better to do it this way. So if you've got something light, I would start with that first. So the half dome is super light, but if you have just like a really thin book or something like that, that would do the job just great. I want you to hold your thing so that your palm would be facing up to the ceiling. So I've just got the thumb on top, the fingers underneath. What I want you to watch is the orientation of your wrist. So whatever you're holding, you're trying not to do this position right now. And the first thing I want you to do is just take your shoulders up to your ears and then really just let them relax down. And relax is the key. I don't want you to do this. Pull them down and yank them back. Just let them go to the best of their ability right now. You're going to bring the arm a little out in front of you as opposed to what you might consider to be the side. Because oftentimes when people take their arm out to the side, they'll do this and take the chest up and the ribs forward. It's super important that the ribs stay down. So we're going to start just a little ahead. And where you're going to be watching on you is this bone here from the elbow up to your shoulder joint. And you have all this skin underneath that doesn't see daylight. Can you begin to rotate this upper arm bone so that this part of your arm is trying to come visible and bring it back? So it's kind of like the leg, when you turn it out, you're bringing the inner thigh round to look at you. Now you're trying to see, can you bring that underneath arm skin around to look at you? And do you know what, just practicing this, just this and nothing else can be super helpful, because it is perfectly possible to do nothing in this bone and still rotate these lower bones back. So if you have a very stiff shoulder, you can kind of fake it by getting the lower arm to rotate. I want you to watch like a hawk, whether you do it this way, turn your head, or you turn the video off and you go and do it in front of a mirror, to play with, do you really see all of this rotating in the shoulder? Common errors are the whole shoulder going backward and forward to help you out, the chest and the ribs doing their thing to try and help you out. So you want the shoulder blade down, you want the ribs down, and this arm rotating. Now the other thing you're going to watch is the elbow. So in order to get everything fired, if you hyperextend the elbow, I don't know how well you can see because the sun is shining, but the muscle definition kind of goes away. And for people who truly hyperextend, they won't use the muscle, they'll use the joint. So I want you to put a small bend in your elbow. So can you see the difference? If I extend, you kind of lose everything here. If I put a small bend in the joint, the muscle comes back. So I'm quite hypermobile in some of my joints. I have to work really hard to make the muscle do the work and not the joint to do the work. So then once you have that, you've got little bend, you've got a rotation, you're just going to see where can you move that arm back that doesn't require you to change anything. So this arm bone has stayed rotated, the muscle definition has stayed there, the ribs are not throwing themselves forward, the chest is not lifting itself up, and then when you've figured out how far back you can take that arm without changing anything, can you lift and lower there? Usually this thing that weighs nothing now starts to feel like it weighs quite a lot, and so I can't feel your pain, only you can feel your pain. So if you need to stop and take a break, you're going to do that. We're going to change arms anyway. So other side, and I have to find a way to, like a taller camera or something, or take camera lessons. So same thing, you're going to start with the arm a little in front, the ribs are down, the chest is down, and then you're going to start to play with the rotation in this arm, which if you're eagle-eyed you will see that I don't have as much rotation on this left shoulder as I do on the right shoulder, for many reasons. This one had a whiplash injury. I tend to subconsciously think of this as the stronger arm. However, having just recently broken the finger on this side and not being able to use this arm, that perspective is having to change, because this arm is really having to pick up the slack right now. And where this arm has got much tighter, I'm having to work completely differently on the left side to what I'm used to. So there's a big learning curve going on here. So once you've rotated out, then you're going to remember that whole elbow extending thing. See if you can soften. Can you pull up the definition of the muscle here, and then start to play with the arm going backward and forward. And again, here you have to watch that it's not you going backward with the arm. In order to really get the pec to be involved in this, you want to keep the chest still and forward. I'm not sure if still is the right word, to start to get all of this to pull back. And then this is where I want you to watch the wrist, because although we've rotated, the wrist shouldn't be doing any kind of bend here. The hand should be holding its thing, so if you've suddenly got fingers that are not attached, watch for that as well. So when you found your furthest point back, then you're going to lift and lower your light object, whatever it is you're holding right now. Even if it's a silk scarf, it might feel like it weighs quite a lot, because you could do this with nothing in your hand and it feels like a lot of work. All right, and then let that release. So we're going to come back to the tin of beans at the end of the movement. So what I would like you to do now is make sure that you pillow up your head, and then we're going to do that little sequence on the floor, adding on a couple of other things to try and make this just stay within my quick series boundary, which I'm doing pretty rubbish at the moment because I like to talk too much. So your head is up to get your ribs down. Now the good thing about the floor is your shoulder blades are down, your ribs are down, the sun is in your eyes, and then you're going to bring the arm out to the side. Now remember when we were upright how I said the side sometimes is not really true side because you're wearing your shoulders around your ears. So let's head down towards the pelvis a little bit. Then you're going to watch that arm and start to play with that rotation out to see if we can go back to getting this upper arm bone to turn. So you should end up with a thumb that's pointing down, a baby finger side of your hand that's pointing up. And then you want to get that muscle definition in, so there's a slight softness in the elbow. Now when you have all of that, you're going to keep the thumb on the ground and let the arm move up as far as nothing changes. So there's no lift of the ribs here on this side. They stay down as the arm tries to work its way up. Now the closer it gets up, where the going gets tough, the more temptation there is to really bend the elbow to try and get the arm higher and then bring it back. So remember, for me, it's never the distance traveled that I'm interested in. It's how I went along the journey to the destination. So can I keep the elbow? Can I keep the shoulder blade down on the mat? Can I keep the ribs down on the mat? And then where do I go to with that arm when I'm doing that? Okay, so you will have found your own particular areas of trouble, and you could definitely stay in those areas and just play around. So you could pause the video and just play, or come back anytime this week and just put yourself in this position and start to play around in the tense areas. I'm going to flip to the other arm, so I'm just going to flip myself around so that I'm still on camera and do it. So the other arm comes out, and remember, side might be better defined as down a little bit. Then rotate the arm back, put the softness in the elbow, make sure the ribs are down, And although I'm looking to camera, you're probably better off once you've checked your arm just looking up and then starting to play with, okay, where can I take this arm? What do I feel changing? Can the shoulder blades stay flat and down? Can the ribs stay down? Do I need to be a little kinder on this side? So how does the range of motion compare on the right side to the left side? Because we usually tend to be one arm dominant, and so you have a whole host of things that may work harder during the day on one side than they do on the other. You may have previous injuries, a multitude of things that will mean that your shoulders and chest are working very differently from each other. And right now you're just exploring what your boundaries are. And then you could go out to both arms. That will give you a clear indication of the difference between the two. It kind of, for me, it feels much more work to keep the ribs down when I have the load of both arms going on. And your goal is really, where can you go with the thumbs down? All right, now you're going to let that relax and then turn onto your side, and you're going to take, so I would pillow up the head. This probably isn't quite enough for me. You're going to take your arm overhead. Now, first and foremost, I want you to make sure, before I fling my arm there, ribs are down relative to your hip bone. So you haven't got the ribs thrusting forward and overarching the back. Your ribs stay down as your pelvis untucks itself, and then this arm goes overhead, and you're trying to see how far overhead can you go before you feel the ribs wanting to push forward. Now, this is always a tricky series, and in fact, if you have any ability to set your phone up with the camera pointed at yourself and watch yourself, you'll really get to see whether your arm likes to drift back as it goes overhead, or more commonly drifts forward. Can you really imagine your arm and your ear kind of lining up with each other? And even then, we're making an assumption that the head is in the right position. So the next time the arm goes overhead, I want you to wrap your fingers as if you're holding onto a monkey bar. So if you were hanging from this arm, your grip would be pretty tight. Can you mimic that for me? And now, can you let the arm move back behind you and then in front of you without letting your ribs fly around? So if you were hanging on the monkey bars and you were about to take this arm forward, this would become the back arm. So we're just going to take one arm, let it be the back arm, let it be the front arm. You're going to watch that the elbow doesn't hyperextend. You're going to watch that the ribs don't ping, because this is the closest I can get to you hanging off a bar without you actually hanging off the bar. And if everything is screaming off at you right now, then you know hanging off a bar may be just a little way off until some of this stuff is a bit stronger. Okay, then we're going to release it. I'm going to flip around the other way because maybe the back view will give you something different. I don't know. Okay. So the arm goes overhead, the ribs are down, the pelvis is untucked. You're going to make that little fist, and then you're going to play with the arm trying to get back behind you and a little in front of you. And all the time, you could maybe think about your shoulder blade coming up towards the sky or the ceiling to help you out. But you don't need the entire shoulder to hunch yourself up at all. Can you imagine that hand grip? Can you really make your hand hold tight to an imaginary bar? And then let that release. Okay, so I want you to come on back to the first side, grab your tin of beans or whatever you have, and then you're going to repeat that with some weight. So now you're going to really have something to hold on to. So now you're going to bring that arm, let's get set up nicely first. Okay, so ribs and hips connected, the arm comes overhead, and now you're going to let that arm move back, move forward. And while you're going to have a ton of muscle fiber having to really stretch back, contract forward, I don't want you to have ribs that are doing this. Right now we want all the smoke and mirrors out so that you can clearly see the work it takes to hold tight to something and then to move. Right now just your arm in space. This isn't even you carrying your body weight. Okay, and then we're going to flip to the other side. And then same thing here, ribs come down, hips are in line. So you're not showing the pants off. Okay. And then starting to move the arm back and forward. Trying to feel that the elbow isn't hyperextending. Such a much more limited range of motion on this side. Although it feels kind of stronger, the can of beans doesn't feel so heavy on this arm. I can feel that everything has to stretch and give a lot more. It feels a lot stiffer to try and get the arm back. So if that resonates with you, then you need to watch that other things are not helping out. There are no ribs going forward, there's no lower back thrust. That you're really keeping the orientation that you've set, and that you watch that the whole shoulder girdle isn't up round your ear. The shoulder blade could be trying to lift itself skyward. Alright, and then let that release. Come on up, and again you could do this standing. I'm going to do it sitting just for the purposes of the video, and then we're going to go back to what we did at the beginning of rotating out, keeping a softness in the elbow, taking this little tin of beans behind and then lifting, lowering it, and then you could start to play with that in increments so that each increment has you working a little higher. And you see how when I get higher I immediately want to go back in the elbow, so as the going gets a bit more work, my habit of hanging out in my joints starts to make itself known. So these are the places really that I have to work in to make myself much stronger so that I can hang off the monkey bars without hanging off my joints, but really hanging off my muscles. And then we're going to go to the other side, rotating back, take the arm back, and then lifting, lowering here, which is definitely one place to work at. But again, if you're in my classes, you'll know that many times I've talked about how very little in our life requires our arms to go overhead. So for a lot of people, the higher the arm goes, the weaker everything begins to feel. It's a lot more work to work there. So there could be some benefit to hanging out here and doing some. All right, hope you enjoyed your arm workout. Thanks very much.